Hello, ladies. Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to Have the Race Gone for the Nukeshot Endurance Series. It is the sixth round of action here from Fuji, and the iRacing lads has died. They did. Sad faces out. Can we get some preliminary ifs? Oh, yes. Somebody just came across the track there. But welcome, everyone. It's been a while since we've had NES action. We've had a bit of a break, but we're back. I'm back as well with coffee. And let's just have a look here. We're just a couple of minutes away from the qualifying session. We've got a mixed field of LMPs and GT3s as usual, as per usual here with the NES, the Nukeshot Endurance Series. We've got a new runner as well here with Clarity Jeff, and not the Jev, but GEF, which kind of in my head makes out Jeff as well, but weird, strange Jeff. Oh, hey though, Splurge. It's running in the end. This is of course the Pro split of two. We've got Pro and AM splits running simultaneously in two lobbies here. Ryan as well here for the TSR gang. The 919 expected to be having perhaps a little bit of a tough time here compared to some of the other straights, or some of the other tracks with that long front straight, the start-finish straight. The question is how much they're going to be making up over the rest of the track. It has been shown that the 919 is up there. Oh, there's a non-number running Mazda. It is actually running a number. It's just well hidden. It's there on the side. Indeed. So we've got Maverick as well from the virtual live experience alongside Crazy John, the two non-Volex drivers. Even though the car still says Volex, it is no longer Volex. It is the virtual live experience, and I shall do my best to remember this. And that's basically what we've got lining up in the LMP category. Of course, the VLX drivers running the Tomahawk Group 1 Vision Gran Turismo cars. We've got a single Hyundai. What's that even called? The N... No, that's the Mazda, goddammit. Me getting confused. That is, of course, the rotary-powered Mazda LM55. Well-known car here in the NES. It's been run by Nilseman for a long time indeed. Where is Nilseman even? Good question. We've got Toshast, the Bulgarian, I should probably mention. Gotten nationality wrong on more than one occasion, and I has apologized as well. We've got Ben for the Eries Racing Team. RT Ben is here along, and he's in the Calsonic GTR. Sailor is here as well in the non-hybrid Audi. It's going to be packing a punch in the top speed, but I think it's going to be an interesting one to see which of the LMPs are going to be best off here, as we have the first of two 10-minute qualifying sessions getting underway. Martin's asking if there is a spot open. I surely believe there is a spot open. There's actually 3 spots open, Martin, so you can hop in if you feel like it. But 10 minutes it is, and it's the GTs that are on the way this time around. And of course we do have the witty Professor Ben, as well as mentioned before, Y-Bear, Toshast, and Fred Dude in the more than pink BMW, the M6. He's been running very well so far, the Belgian. Joe of the Fire has been mentioning that the FT1 has been hit by BOP changes late, right in before the season, and that has of course been affecting them. Well, welcome, Ben, I should say, or Swablu, but it's nice to have you along. Wake, best of luck to you. Yeah, what a race by Mads Pedersen. Oh, I was screaming earlier on. That's for the first time in the history of the sport we've had a Danish men's road cycling world champion. And the women's a couple of years ago with Amalie Didriksen. This year, Mads Pedersen followed that up. And what a race it was. Nah, I don't care about Van der Poel. Just. But anyway, enough about that. We've got qualifying for the GTs on the way. As mentioned before, those who have been hit, the FT1s leading him off. Then Torshost in the AMG GT3. Very nice livery. Can I just say that? Black and pink. It looks wonderful, and then you see the anime on the side. Yeah. And then Ben, of course, still in that Calsonic GTR livery. Fred Dude is here as well. And what's up, Erebus? The insane Greek indeed does say hello. Oh, there's that Y-bear getting a little squiggly there. And they've been lining this up to lend the toe to Joe of the Fire. A bit of teamwork here, perhaps, from the Nukeshot racing team. What is this indeed, TSR? Perhaps a bit of inspiration. Indeed, Joe of the Fire up on Y-Bear by an entire second. And as you see, Ben, it seems also having had a bit of an advantage with the toe on Torshost. Is that it is? And at the moment, Joe sits very close. 300ths of a second ahead of Fred Dude. So the Belgian with no toe here, it seems, very much still in the mix. Purple through sector 1 here is Fred Dude indeed. And he will be catching up to the Calsonic Nissan in front. That might just come home for him as an advantage in the end here. What's up, Maverick? And hello, run! You see Ben just getting out of the way there. Maybe not wanting to lend the toe, or not wanting to simply really get in the way of a faster moving Fred Dude, who is on a very fast lap. But I think Joe's lap was made in that final sector, so we'll have to see just what kind of a time it'll be this time around for Fred Dude. In comes Joe of the Fire, and Fred Dude is aborting this lap as well, even though he was purple earlier on. And it seems the common tactic for everyone but Y-Bear, and the question is an improvement on the boards for the Indonesian. I don't think there is, even though he is by quite a bit purple here, but that was from carrying too much speed. He hasn't picked up a penalty, it seems, though going somewhat wide. And that was on the exit of turn 3. Here comes turn 5. So a difficult exit to get right on that outside. Oh, I think odds are we will be seeing plenty of dive bombs into turn 1 here. It is one of the few places where you can... Actually, Fuji, one of the better places for actual racing and for actual overtaking to happen. So, with that long front straight, but also at other points of the track, it is possible. It's also possible for some very good racing to happen here. We'll have to see here as Wybear comes across the line. What's it gonna be? Oh, Wybear improves and crawls past Ben up to 3rd place provisionally here as Joe of the Fire, the Joe-2 guy, the witty professor, still clinging on to the provisional pole position. Just by a slim margin indeed. And we'll have to see whether or not Fred Dude will be able to do anything about it. We've got just over 2.5 minutes left of the GT qualifying session, and that makes will make for 2 more laps for the entire field, unless of course anyone goes and bins it completely. Here's Joe of the Fire goes slightly wide. Also, that was on the exit of turn 5. As mentioned, it's a difficult one. Joe of the Fire, though, purple through sector 2. Small improvement, but an improvement nonetheless. Now that final sector where it does seem like the FT1 is struggling to keep its tail under control. It really likes to kick it out. Does pack a punch in a straight line. Oh, as he gets squirmy on the exit, goes onto the AstroTurf, and he does indeed lose it. Joe of the Fire absolutely losing it on the exit of the final corner, and that'll be the qualifying session done for him. I don't think it's going to be possible for the witty professor to rejoin, to get back into the pits even and get around before, with 1 minute and 20 seconds left. Fred Dude improving by 0.003 of a second. That's not going to be enough to tip off Joe of the Fire. There's going to be one final attempt here. And yet again, Fred Dude is purple through the first sector. We'll keep an eye on how the Belgian fares along. Wybear is just about half a second down now. Who is Fred Dude catching up to by this time? It's not Wybear, it's not Ben, so it must be the Mercedes of Toshost. Here is the Nissan of Ben, also having gone through the first sector in a purple time here on this final, say this all or nothing lap here at the end to tip off Joe of the Fire as that king pole. Oh yeah, indeed, Maverick, HTRG, I thought about that one too at some point one of these days here. Joe of the Fire still parked at the side of the track. There is the flag, and that means, of course, the lap will stand. What it'll be is not good enough to improve. And Ben, who was on a very good first sector, might have lost out a little through the second sector, but let's see what's it gonna be. Oh, getting close there and getting onto row 2. Less than 0.2 down on the pole time of Joe of the Fire, so that's certainly not bad at all. ERT right up there with the top runners. And now we'll see the LMPs starting to appear in the pit lane as well. as the 10 minutes of LMP qualifying are close to getting underway. Here is that lovely sounding rotary master. Really sounds good indeed. We did have a Hyundai running with armored core, but we have Sailor in the tractor as well, the diesel tractor, the non-hybrid tractor. Really cannot understand why we don't, or why we aren't seeing more of those GTs being called to pits, and the LMPs are they appearing? They're certainly wanting to get in there rather quickly for TSR, of course, Ryan and Wake. And the question is, will we have Martin joining in as well? Well, then it should be right about now indeed. Symphony going on. While we have this bit of a break, well, let's have a look at the championship standings for the LMPs as they are almost released. Well, they'll be released in a minute's time, but that'll give me the perfect amount of time to go through the championship standings in the LMP Pro split. It's very close between TSR, Wake, and VLX Crazy John. The Mad Greek sitting 2 points behind the TSR driver, but certainly close. We've got Martin on 43 points in third place, but he's not here today, so we'll have to see just how that is gonna go. And then well, the next pro split driver, that's Sailor with 24 points, Armored Core with 22, Ryan with 19 as well as Slowest Guy, Pinkery, Maverick, all down there at the end of affairs, so to say, with low points. But that's been a little bit of changing in the VLX camp with that second car, Crazy John. It's been their main driver, it seems, for this season. And let's go through the GT standings as well. We have Joe of the Fire leading Fred Dude by 3 points by now. So the witty professor certainly has gotten a good money's worth, for what it's worth, yet so far into it at least. We've got Opiolu and then Swablu quite close as well in that battle for third, but they are indeed 30 points behind the two leaders, so it's very much a two-horse race in that GT class as well. Y-Bear on 28 points, and then further down we have Jimmy Canoni as well. Jimmy Canoni, we have TSR Jimmy and the Canoni brothers, but they are also down there on points, actually tied on 11, both of them. So with that said, with that gone through on, with that being having been updated upon, as you all know, this is Wake getting the first flying lap underway for the LMPs in this new livery, I think. The Ben Jerry, we've got a getting squiddly on the rear end. Sugar Rush performance. It'll be interesting to see both one lap and race pace comparisons of the hybrids and non-hybrids. So actually the 919s are the only running hybrids in the pro field. A little bit of a surprise, I think, in the end, that we haven't seen any more hybrids make it into the pro splits and any more hybrids run in general in the pro splits, being that, well, they are in the end very hard to compete with. And what we saw in the last season was more or less complete hybrid domination. So a little bit of a surprise to see that that so many teams have opted for non-hybrid machines here in this season. Of course, there is a BOP that's designed to try to level out the differences. And here we'll see what kind of differences we're talking about here. Don't know if that's a good lap for Sailor. 4 seconds down on that first lap set by TSR Wake. Here Ryan comes in. He's 4/10 of a second up on teammate Wake. Clarity was just 4/10 down on Wake as well. But that means almost a second. And let's see the VLX cars of Maverick and Crazy John just around a second down as well. The question is, have they been going full gas yet? And if this is the picture, of course, these multi-class races, well, anything can happen here, but if this is the picture, it's going to be a tough one dealing with those Porsches here. Ryan just a little bit behind. Oh, braking very late. And I think calling off the lap in the end as well. Wake seems to be going to the line on this one. But no improvement as well. Here's Clarity, who's been on a personal best. And seems it isn't even gonna matter really. Is that so? It's indeed so. Early pit stop. See a slight improvement, I think, on that last lap for the Mad Greek. Will by no means be content with being such a distance behind the Porsches. Also given that the Tomahawk's fuel consumption is quite a bit higher than the Porsches. That's what we've seen in earlier races, and it's really been a problem to contend with for the VLX boys in order to stay competitive. With Crazy John absolutely pushing it to the limit. Is it gonna be an improvement, or is it gonna be a pit stop? He is staying out. So what's it gonna be? A 120, and he goes second fastest. So certainly found some pace on that lap. Just nudges down TSR Wake into third place. Momentary third place on the grid, that is. Wake on yet another flyer. That right-hander before the final technical section, or on the longer layout, there is a very slow chicane. This layout makes it more, you can say, more of a low downforce track, but in the end Still one more compromise rules, and here TSR Wake onto provisional pole with just around 3 minutes of the qualifying session remaining. That is not bad at all. A 1:20.5 and a purple first sector for the Belgian. Ryan is gonna pit in here, and that's gonna be perfectly timed for 2 more laps for the other TSR Porsche. Is that Doritos sponsorship on that machine? It's gonna be a black flag for illegal pit exiting there for Ryan. That's just me coming straight out of iRacing. Oh, CJ almost losing the rear on that turn 5 exit. That long sweeping kink of turn 6. Turn 7 is that right-hander, then the first right-hander in the final technical complex will then be turn 8. And then turns 9 and 10. Well, is that just one long turn 9? I guess that is. And then turn 10, well, that's gonna be this final one that breaks in, and with a bit of a crest as well to throw you off balance while coming through. I'd be surprised to see CJ improve upon his lap from before on this attempt. Certainly didn't. A second and a half down. Clarity on yet another personal best. It's been at least so far on this one. So let's see if it can be any kind of improvement. Can it be a 1-2 TSR victory? Well, I think it would be completely out of reach for him by any means, but it's a long race. There's a lot of traffic to overtake on your way to victory indeed. Maverick seems to have a little bit of issues finding the same kind of pace as CJ. Oh, you didn't say TSR. It's gonna be a little bit of more of a challenge, I think, for the VLX boys. Those Tomahawks seem to just not really have the general pace of the 919s. And that's basically on acceleration. And there is the flag, so it isn't going to be any more laps than what they've just started here. And Wake is now a 10th up in the first sector. Ryan is looking to go purple on this lap. And he has the toe of the Mazda in front. So now the question being, is it going to be enough for Ryan to grab pole position? Oh, it is, provisionally at least, by a 10th and a half. And that means Wake, who seems to be matching his own lap time from before, that might not be enough in the end to actually grab pole position. It's in what's been a very close qualifying session between the two 919s, the two TSR cars, but the rest of the field there, Crazy John parking it. That's been a little bit further off, but not by much in the end. 0.3 of a second. Here comes Wake, and what's it going to be? It's not going to be a pole position lap whatsoever. He's 0.6 of a second down on his personal best. Clarity, Maverick, and Sailor is still running, and it's going to be an improvement, but it's not going to be enough of an improvement for the Norwegian to actually crawl up the grid order in any way, and qualifies in 6th place, 1.4 seconds off the pole position pace of TSR Ryan in that 919, as mentioned before. A car that has won this very championship before, so we know that it's crafty indeed, and I think everyone who, or anyone who knows just a little bit about motorsports in recent years will will be plenty familiar with the achievements of the Porsche 919. The drivers does indeed have a bit of a wee time now, and Sailor getting loose. Get loose. The exit of turn 1, definitely, I think, tough spot for that R18 with the massive torque, and then without that hybrid system to help its front wheels align and get along. A Mercedes 1-2 Mercedes. I don't even think we have 2 Mercedes on the grid, Airbus, so there's only one. That's gonna be a little difficult, to say the least. So now just waiting on exactly when we're gonna have the flag drop. Now, let it be known that I have, of course, been asking in and just mentioning that from a broadcasting perspective, we would like to see the new qualifying format that was implemented, the qualifying lobby format that was implemented, to also be implemented for these races, and just have the race start right after the finish of the final qualifying session. I guess it could be worked in. If a safety car can be worked in, I think we can work with that qualifying session as well. But it hasn't happened yet, so we're still here with a bit of a break before the race. At some point. Was it just about to say that you run out of things to talk to? No, to talk about. To talk to? Well, I'm talking to myself here at the end. And I believe we are ready. Maverick, Lego Miraeus. Waiting for that start signal. Then we're gonna have the formation lap, and then 1 hour's worth of racing. Maverick with a slow puncture in qualifying, explaining the lack of pace compared to teammate CJ. We'll be asking further ways into that once we get to the post-race interviews. That's of course if we're gonna speak to Maverick in the post-race interviews. But that is, we've got TSR Ryan on pole position in the LMPs. We've got Joe of the Fire on pole position in the GTs, and it's gonna be an interesting run. It's gonna be an interesting one for sure already. So hopefully we're gonna get a bunch of Y's, a bunch of yeses, a bunch of yes. Yes. And with that, the racing shall indeed get underway. Here from Fuji. Fuji. And here it is. The final has gotten underway. Ladies and gentlemen, find your best seated positions and get into them, because once we got this formation lap underway, there'll be no leaving it for the next hour's time. Selling this product well, it's not for sure. So of course, as mentioned before, a TSR front row with the 919s in front of CJ, Clarity, Maverick and Sailor, and that makes the LMP field in the end. Oh, and I just lost. Oh, there's a restart. It's been called. So something happened there. We didn't catch it. And for the sake of Fred, dude, that's probably pretty good. Since it sounds like he plept up, and that happens at times to all of us, but a good question, Sailor. So now the grid will be set quickly again, and we'll get the racing underway. Here it is. The drivers in the pit lane. And let's see if we get a little more luck on this second attempt of Isn't Sailor in the lobby? Didn't he go in before? I don't see that Audi of his, do I? No. Oh. So well, it says that he entered. He isn't here. And we're gonna do another restart. So I totally jinxed that one by I'll be keeping my lips sealed in talking about so everyone go to the track, please. There's no reason to leave it. That's actually true. Just go to it and stay there. Hello, Jimmy! What a pleasure it is. Of course, on this holy Sunday evening, to have your company here as we're about to get racing. Has the AM split gotten moving yet? I think it's a good question. It seems we have everyone in this time around. We have everybody visible as well. Something I've been dealing with a little bit here of late. Perhaps that news update that was actually out when just a couple of days ago, that might have fixed some of those issues. Something we're hoping for. So perhaps third time is indeed gonna be the lucky time around. Here it is, the grid order for you. TSR, as I mentioned last time around, on that front row lockout, we'll have yet another attempt of getting the drivers onto the formation lap safely, and it seems this time around it has happened. An immediate lots of tire warming going on. Of course, this is an iRacing, so you actually do need a bit of tire warmth here before the tires function optimally. But that's about where the realism stops being on the side of GT Sport, I think. But it's indeed funny that when racing and iRacing and doing these formation laps, you see very little swerving about, because people are actually just trying to keep the tires cold for them to have as much grip as possible. But anyway, going through the LMP grid, those two TSR machines, Ryan and Wake on the front row, in front of CJ and Clarity in the Mazda LM55 LMP car. And then row 3 indeed being Maverick and Sailor. So it is really just the two hybrids at the front, and then the rest scrambling to keep up. As I think Clarity mentioned as well, we should have picked the hybrid, shouldn't he? Yep, you should. Look at the real stuff. Who's stacking up the wins? Well, it isn't Rebellion, is it? I don't know, Martin. I don't know. And it's the thing is that it's always just so hard to make these things play out. I mean, especially if you're talking the 3 hybrid LMPs against one another, it's going to be a little easier. Now, anyways, we're getting close to the end of the formation lap. We're just going to go through the GT field grid as well. With Joe of the Fire and Fred Dude on row 1, it's Yerti Ben and Ybear on row 2, and then Toshas, the Bulgarian, there on row 3. Now, Erebus in the safety car, about to break off. Then it's going to be Ryan controlling the field. We're going to go on to the WAN cam here from the lead car now. Of course, a nice bit of an advantage, and now it's a bit of a split between the 2 fields, so we don't get any crazy bunchings. And here they go. An early launch there from Ryan, getting a brilliant run on, well, the entirety of the field, basically. Everybody scrambling to keep up. And into turn 1, safely they go. A nice move seems to have been made from Sailor. Getting a very nice run, and now let's have a look at the GTs. Just getting a run is Toshast, who's in the slipstream of Ben there on the inside of Fred Dude indeed, as they go into turn 1. The Brit really looking for it as Ybear goes way wide. Fred goes way wide as well on that exit. And that means both Toshast and Fred Dude, and Ben, the ERT boys, is through on the Belgian. That is certainly not what he wanted. Here is a look here as that's a little too early on. We'll have another look here, just checking in with the LMPs. Seems to be status quo, except for Sailor making very good progress on the first lap. And then Maverick already having picked up some damage. Now, was there contact between any of those cars? Well, I definitely think there must have been contact between Clarity and Maverick there in turn 1. Since we will get them both pitting in, I suggest now Clarity is here, and I think Maverick is going to be coming in as well for a quick damage fix. And let's have another look at that situation before with Fred Dude. Now look, because it's Ben on the inside, and they go quite wide into the corner. Wide enough to actually leave the space for Toshast, and I think Fred Dude felt that he got a little bit of a shove there. So it's the Witty Professor now leading Toshast, and Ben in the GTs still quite close with Fred Dude in 4th place. But having to settle into the rhythm now. And out in front in the LMPs, still 1-2 for the 919s. Wake following around Ryan just outside the edge of the dirty air. And then a further 1.5 seconds down to CJ here at the end of what's effectively the the second lap of racing, going on to lap 3 with that formation lap, of course. But CJ is gaining the fastest lap so far, 120.8 at least of the race here, and Ryan must have made some kind of mistake. Absolutely losing loads of time on the straight to Wake, and then really pulling it out quickly. Seems a little wonky there. A big moment of oversteer though for Ryan. And let's check back with Joe of the Fire, who's really building on to that lead. 2 seconds down to Toshast already. With the Merc really stretching his legs here, pulling in the FT1. And quite strongly so there, even in a straight line. That's quite impressive. That's something you'd necessarily think of being the very strongest point for the AMG GT3. So interesting point to see there now as Fred Dude is looking to have a go with Ben. Man, I think he just went through, and he certainly did. As Clarity has to go, and that's a DNF for him. That's very early into proceedings indeed. Here comes the move from Fred Dude. Now the question is, was there a bit of a touch? I think Ben might have been shoved out wide. I'm not entirely sure. That might have been a little bit of a thanks for last time out there from Fred Dude, who certainly has places to be, it seems, here as he goes up the inside of Nukeshot as well. But the Bulgarian isn't going to budge so easily now. There isn't really going to be the space for a cutback as well. Fred Dude left on the outside now. Who gets the run down the start-finish straight? The BMW seems to get the superior exit. And now it's about who has the most straight line grunt, and that seems to be actually the Mercedes. And that straight line grunt seems to make it a possibility for Nukeshot to actually defend the position. Ben has a little bit of a look there. Nukeshot seems to go deep. Oh, and then it's Fred Dude getting a poor exit. Now he has to defend. And that's going to be Ben up the inside of turn 3. Oh, just a cut across. Super close battle this for the GT podium. Still close. Kind of close indeed. CJ actually doing a really good job of hanging on to the two Porsches as Ryan seems to be building a lead, although he has already been making mistakes as well. Sailor got well away, but is running in 4th. 8 seconds down though on CJ. So just that little bit off the pace in that non-hybrid R18. And then as mentioned, Joe of the Fire in a very good position here as Fred Dude did get the move done this time around, I think. Let's have another look. That's around the outside into turn 6. A little bit of a squeezy one in the end as Nukeshot tries to send it right back. And we're gonna have another look here from the perspective of the Bulgarian. Seems like there was already a bit of an instigation of a move happening before that, so seems to be a pretty fair move there from Fred Dude, though he did receive a little bit of a touch from Nukeshot to the rear of the car, braking very late the Mercedes into turn 1. And now getting blue flag as it's Ryan making his way through on the GT field for the first time. And the question is, with 0.8 of a second down to Wake, how close are they gonna get? CJ seeming to having he's lost a little bit of time actually on this, it seems. But of course it does help with that hybrid system as Nukeshot turns in, almost collects the Greek on the inside of him there as he had to send it to make it through. Wasn't really a choice in the end, that is for certain. This time CJ able to send it around the outside of Fred Dude here in the final corner. It's going to be sub-optimal for both of them. Now the advantage for Joe of the Fire is down to 3 seconds. The question is whether Joe of the Fire was impeded by the two leading LMPs that last time around. Evening Rips, nice to have you around. I hope you're good. I hope you've been enjoying the weekend. Thanks for stopping by, spending a bit of the final hours of it with us here at Half the Race Gone. We're following GT leader Joe of the Fire. We should perhaps have a look at Fred Dude, but that advantage down to Nukeshot, that's grown a hastily as well. As now Sailor is coming up to lap the Belgian. That's getting a little bit twitchy, but otherwise very patient work from the Norwegian. I was about to say the advantage to Fred Dude that's being pulled out to Shust here is also battling Y-Bear, so that might be a part of the explanation. And Ben also having dropped down the order a little bit. That's certainly not perfect. Here's Y-Bear really wanting to send it. So Shust making that Mercedes as wide as humanly possible, and there's no way through for now for Y-Bear, that's for sure. Just as I say that, well, he goes early. That's a bit of a nudge, and of course the cutback is gonna work in that situation for Shust. Now, did they pick up damage? No, certainly not. Keeping up running, it's just that swerve to try to break the toe here. Ryan still 1.2 seconds ahead of Wake. And then a further 3 seconds down to CJ in third. Fred Dude is certainly gaining on Joe of the Fire at the moment. He's gained a second since last time I really had a look. And he's really making big inroads at the moment into that gap ahead. That's shrinking rather quickly. The BMW seems to be so much more stable. Really able to achieve some much higher exit speeds without being too difficult to drive. The junior made here, the M6. And then further back, Y-Bear now getting past on Shust. Let's see if we could actually have a look at that. Nope. But anyway, the Indonesian in that second of the two Nukeshot FT1s up into third place. And then Shust Ben right behind these two as Shust goes a little wide, but still certainly also in with a chance for a podium place, and that goes for all the GTs in the end. And it just seems to be going up and down ever so slightly here between Ryan and Wake. I think Ryan gets a bit of a slidey entrance to and through turn 5 there, turn 6, and then of course into the indeed very fast turn 7 for this layout in these LMPs with the high downforce. Ryan seems to be losing a bit of traction here, and that is also costing time. Wake is going to be right there in the slipstream yet again. The question is just how that is going to be working out for the Belgian. Now within 0.5 of a second. He's still going to be battling one another as Ryan is actually trying to break the toe, to break the slipstream. CJ is doing pretty well to keep up, 3.5 seconds down on those two duelants out in front, but it won't take much squabbling about there for their sake, the two front runners, in order for them to throw away whatever advantage they've built up at the present time here. Now Fred Dude just 1.2 seconds down on Joe of the Fire, so really closing in quickly and having left the rest of the GT field squabbling behind for scraps, at least here from the start of the race. The two championship leaders. And I said it is a two-horse race for the GT Pro Championship so far, and it's really seems to be continuing down that very same rabbit hole here. And Fred Dude seems to be in a good position. Oh, as Ben has picked up some kind of mechanical damage. That's not a lot. Now Shust, we'll see, has also picked up damage, but Seems to have been a small collision between the two, and it's certainly nothing that's gonna call out the safety car. So we're about a fourth of the way through the race by now. Still Ryan having pushed on and just extended the gap yet again to just over a second. It seems to be hovering around there every time he makes a mistake. Wake gets a little back. Ryan seems to be just that little bit up on pace, but for now, Ryan absolutely spins it. Haven't managed to completely bin it. And I haven't picked up any damage to the car, but of course, CJ through as well. And we are going to have another look, and as I think Ryan might have actually spun again. Just going wide onto the AstroTurf. And then 180 degrees around. And it's time to get the car running. Let's see here through that final corner. It was on the exit. It looked as if he might have had a bit of a problem. The question is, how bad was it actually there? He's 5 seconds down on CJ. No matter what, that's a bad situation to be in, and that's going to be driving him on here. In comes Maverick, and that's just going to be fresh tires, I think. In from P5. And then on fresh tires now with the ability to undercut. Still 60% of fuel left in the tank of Maverick's car. Sailor is still 8.6 seconds down on Ryan after that spin. So certainly seems to be a little bit difficult for the Norwegian. After that pit stop, the gap down to Maverick is 22.4 seconds now. Wake, the one having taken over race lead, leading by 2 seconds to CJ. Looking pretty consistent so far, the Mad Greek. Ryan having been put 5 seconds down, and yet we have one of the GTs pitting in here. That's Torshost coming in. And that's to get that damage fixed. I think Ben is staying out. Torshost realizing that there's no way to keep it running. And here at the 20-minute marker, the two-stop strategy could be what's in mind for Torshost. Re-entering there on the hard compounds of tires. Bit of a surprise, I think. For me, at least. The question is, we see the Bulgarian go all the way to the line now. It certainly is a brim tank, so that should be good for going all the way, though I'm not really sure. Of course, I haven't made any sort of calculations to this whatsoever, so I actually don't know. But we'll have to see now. Anyway, Wake still leading, but CJ actually having caught up a little bit over that final lap. That's rather interesting. But the same goes for Ryan, who's also set about on trying to diminish the advantage built up by the Porsches. And now there's really a battle going on as well for the GT lead, it seems here. Joe of the Fire and Fred Dude here going at it, and that's been flying very much under the radar here as Wake rounds the two. They're more or less side by side coming into turn 3. With Fred Dude on the outside, but he'll be aiming to get a good run into turn 4, though I don't think it's really going to be possible for him around here, at least. 0.3 of a second in behind here as CJ makes it through safely as well. Hectic moments as the leaders of both classes get those overtakes made in a safe style as well. Let's go on board here with the witty professor, the Wang Cam of that Toyota FT1 Vision Gran Turismo Group 3 machine, or GT3 if you will. Here it's Ryan losing a bit of time on having to pass Fred Dude there now getting stuck in between these two and losing a bit of time through that corner. Getting past Joe of the Fire as well. That's not optimal for Ryan as well. Still sitting third after that spin. But showing that even though he does seem to be the top man on pure pace, he's a little too prone perhaps to be making mistakes, at least in the Porsche 919. As it's CJ pitting in, Ryan pitting in as well. Those two cars seem to be a little more equal on fuel than what we've seen before as well. It might just be because CJ has actually been doing enough fuel saving for that to be happening here, as they've both got more fuel left than Sailor as well. Rather impressive. But back onto the track they go. And Joe of the Fire still hanging on to it. Gonna be a carbon copy of that last lap. Nah, I don't think so this time around. It's gonna be very close. If not more than that, here is just Maverick having a sneak around the outside. And now up comes Ryan as well and have a touch. A bit of a tap to the rear end of Joe of the Fire as Fred Dude grabs the GT lead away from the Witty Professor. We are on board here with the Joe True guy indeed. Wang came for a moment. Oh, Fred Dude coming from almost getting sent to Narnia in that situation. That was actually very well kept from the Belgian to, well, first of all, not bin it, and then second of all, to turn that situation into an overtaking move. Good opportunism. Now here, Wake is in for his first stop, stretching it ever so slightly, trying to overcut some of the others. Let's see what is the advantage going to be. Coming out the pits, it isn't too bad at all. 4 and a bit seconds, maybe a bit less, as they round the corner. Joe of the Fire pitting in. Might have been wanting to opt for the one stop, but this is looking like a 2-stop strategy for Joe of the Fire. And let's just see Fred Dude running the super softs against the regular softs of Joe of the Fire. That is, of course, also going to be making a difference on its own. Evening Stick, nice to have you along. I hope you have been enjoying your weekend, and that goes for everyone. As always, on these Sunday broadcasts, I think it's just such a nice thing to say, because the weekend is the best time of the week, and it's made to be enjoyed, so there goes. So Fred Dude, our new GT3 leader, Joe of the Fire pitting right after it became apparent for him that he wasn't going to be able to hold up Fred Dude for any longer. It's also worth noting that I think actually Joe of the Fire's regular softs were more worn than the super softs used by Fred Dude here, so clearly the balance of the BMW M6 seems to be in another class. Yeah, they've had a bit of troubles with that being quite slow indeed here. Is that Maverick moving up through? It is indeed, and here comes the pit stop from Fred Dude. Also a little early to call it for a one-stopper, but a little late for a two-stopper as well. And of course it could just be a stretch to go for a little bit of an early stop here, then to cover it off with a one-stop. That would be a solid strategy, I think, for Fred Dude. Here comes Joe of the Fire. Now, is it going to be possible that the Witty Professor is actually going to be undercutting? Very much so, with a strong undercut there indeed. Joe of the Fire right back on top of the GT class. That's quite impressive indeed. Put in a very good lap since getting back out and running there. Still on those regular softs. Closing in on lap 20 by now. And Stick, that truly sounds good. Motorsports and family. What a day. So still Wake, but by 2 seconds here, CJ seems to have a bit of a moment on board here. Wake gets past easily. That's on Nukeshot. Oh, it's just... Oh, not dead. Well kept there from CJ, but he surely lost out on a little bit of time. Kept it to a minimum in the situation here is Ryan. Well, what was that? That was at least Nukeshot finding his way to the runoff on the left side of the track. Well, that's all on his own. Getting that corner ever so slightly wrong now. Ryan still catching up to CJ. It's just 3.7 seconds. Of course, losing a little time on the start-finish straight, but the time gained is on the rest of the track for the 919. That is well known by now. Now Wybear seeming to stretch those super softs very well in that FT1, and that looks like a definite one-stopper indeed. So the question is it going to put Wybear into sudden contention for the GT win here? The 6.3 second lead down to Joe of the Fire might not be enough. But then again, are we going to see an extra pit stop from Joe of the Fire and Fred Dude? I'm not quite sure. They did pit. Joe of the Fire, I don't think he's going to be able to keep it running all the way to the line. And Fred Dude, I wouldn't be surprised to see him actually be able to stretch it ever so slightly. That's something we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on for laters. And from Fred Dude down to Ben in 3rd place. And then Nukeshot in 4th, and Erebus is in 5th place, so to say. Nukeshot, of course, in 5th place, because Wybear is leading ahead. A bit of a meltdown, a bit of a brain fart moment there. And indeed, here is Wake. He's actually getting caught now by CJ. Might just be the... Oh, as Wake has a big moment, a big off. Happy for that tarmac runoff that goes more or less all the way around the track, except for a very few occasions, a very few places. In the end here, CJ finding some of it useful as well. Really gaining on Wake at the moment, really having found good pace. We're on the super softs at the moment. I find that rather interesting indeed. So Wake now starting to keep that advantage alive, making short work of Fred Dude's car on the start-finish straight. CJ seeming to be a little unlucky there, getting past though quickly. Now nearing the Joe2 guy. Oh, yet again going more than wide on the exit of turn 5 in his pursuit of pace, I guess, and of Wake as well. Here as Ryan is sending it right up the inside. Ryan actually closing in quite quickly. And this is all getting back together. I'm actually not sure, Stig. I don't think so. I think usually we would be running the real settings, so I'd be surprised to find if that was indeed the case. Now we are around, or actually just over the halfway marker here for this race. We've still got TSR leading, but it's a close battle actually. Maybe even closer than anyone could have predicted here, as YBear is pinning in for what will definitely be a one-stopper for the Indonesian. Pretty low on fuel here, so we'll have to see how much time there'll be to make up for YBear. He comes out from that pit stop, but mind you, Joe of the Fire was right on his tail. And half the race has indeed gone, Erebus. As always, Dick. That's what we get from this series. The users. CJ, again, just ever so slightly extending. But of course, fluid limits. At times at least, as he's trying to keep Ryan in behind. Sailor 4th, Maverick 5th, and then Joe of the Fire now leading the GTs in front of Fred Dude and Ben, having crept up into 3rd place. YBear taking his time for that pit stop, but of course having to fuel quite a bit. I think YBear wouldn't have necessarily needed to fuel that much. Probably lost 3, 4, even maybe even more seconds due to what could be overfueling in the end. And Wake, oh, Wake very close to losing it on the exit of turn 1. And we're gonna have a swift second look at what happened for our LMP leader. Was it just the AstroTurf? It very certainly wasn't. It was that understeer getting on power when that MGUK kicks in on the power to the front wheel. It just gets plowed on. That cost about 0.7 of a second down of the advantage to CJ. Ryan has lost a little bit of time as well. It's all smoothing out between our top 3 runners, who are still kept in within 3 seconds. So it's still all to play for the LMPs. And actually same goes for the GTs, because just 2.5 seconds in between Joe of the Fire and Fred Dude. Then we've got Ben of the iRacing team for the 14 seconds down, and that's gonna be a battle between himself, YBear, and Toshost for what effectively is then 3rd place in the GT class. Well, that's how I call it, at least. Now CJ getting very close to the rear end of Wake, almost. Well, he had a look. Jimmy, I think we can all understand priorities. It's all good, mate. Hope the kids are good as well. Oh, Ryan's not the first time we've seen him do this here, as CJ gets yet again. I think that's the third or fourth lap. It's gone a little wide there on the exit of turn 5. So as Ryan making quick work as well of Toshost, and then losing a little bit on entrance of the next corner. The question is, will he get the toe on CJ here? Benji, welcome, mate. Nice to have you along. Joining at the perfect time with an LMP lead battle that's closer than close. And look at this time around, it's actually CJ who's managed to keep the Tomahawk in place, and that's a very late dive and a bit of a squirm from Wake, as CJ does take the race lead. We're gonna have another look just shortly here. It's a late send as well from Wake, and he does have some extra power to run on. He's gonna re-grab that right away. We're gonna have a second look immediately as well, on board with the Mad Greek, that is, as Wake goes defensive, goes to cover off, knows that he can't cover off what in the end just turns out to be a feint from CJ. And the battle is still raging. And a couple of laps ago I mentioned it was 3 cars within 3 seconds for the LMPs. Now it's 3 cars within a second. We are in the second half of the race, and none of these cars have had any accidents or anything. It has been close racing all the way through here. CJ goes a little wide. He manages to keep it under control, but he loses a position. More so, he loses some really valuable time to race leader Wake here as Ryan sweeps on through. Just brakes too late. But getting on the power after having been off there, well kept not to spin the car in that situation, and he might have to run on Ryan here into turn 1. But stick, those LMP cars in real life are also surprisingly small, and I would bet you the SRT Tomahawk being American, of course it's huge, and it does look like an absolute bus compared to Porsche. I think it's 25-30% wider or something like that. Now all this battling here in behind is gonna allow Wake to have a chance to just run away. Ryan trying to really get late on the brakes there, but doesn't get the best of exits. Now trying to rely on that hybrid system perhaps, but really gaining too much. And it is an absolute ship indeed. Exactly, Erebus. Exactly. Just my thoughts. Let's have a look back here with Joe of the Fire, because Joe is getting caught by Fred Dude yet again. The gap 1.1 seconds. Fred Dude right on the edge of the slipstream, but is gaining. Joe of the Fire losing a 10th on personal best through the first sector. We're gonna have a look. Tires are beginning to get worn for the Witty Professor. It is more and more really beginning to look like a 2-stop. The question is, for how long is Fred Dude gonna be able to keep his rubber alive? Oh, this Joe of the Fire almost gets it too wide there on the very same CJ exit there of turn 5. I think it's gonna be hard to keep concentration to run that car around Tsukuba stick. Oh, was that Ben? Who was that on the outside? Was it just Fred Dude who went wide there before? I think someone went wide, but there was a bit of a strange place to do so. He definitely go a little bit wide. Catches a loose tail under braking. Wake yet again ever so slowly being caught by CJ, who is really pushing it to keep up with the Porsches, but also doing very nicely to stay ahead of Ryan at the moment. He's not in the slipstream of Wake, I think, but surely with more top end speed in the end. Now certainly Fred Dude wouldn't have lost too much time. I think it's now 2.2 seconds. Actually, he has lost a bit of time to Joe of the Fire, but those super softs are not, I think, not gonna go all the way as well. So I don't want to make any early conclusions, but it does look like a 2-stopper for both Joe of the Fire and Fred Dude. That might open the door strategically in the end for Y-Bear, who's definitely on a 1-stopper, having saved those super soft very well on the first stint. Oh, CG getting feeling that there isn't really much grip, neither on the curbs or the AstroTurf of the final sector with Fuji, and it's still within not a lot of space. This time it's going to be an early stop for CJ, who might be trying an undercut, and Ryan seems to follow the Mad Greek right into the box. That old CJ trick with doing a little bit more fuel and then carrying that around. and having a shorter stop here at the end. Let us see as he exits with 51% of fuel in the car. Certainly has gained a second or so, a little bit more on Ryan. Let's see what the response from Wake is going to be to this exact move from CJ. Could it get him into the lead? Well, it very well could here. Maverick in very low on fuel indeed at this point. And Joe of the Fire, well, yet again just about getting caught here on board with the Wang Cam. Fred Dude, 0.7 of a second behind. So we're well into the second part of this race by now. And that takes us on board with the Fred Dude. Fred Dude getting a little late-ish, perhaps just, but manages to still get a good exit. And now Wake reacting to the other pitters. 12 laps remaining, so less than 20 minutes. The question is, CJ, that's a massive undercut. That is indeed a massive, massive undercut. Here's Ryan is behind. But CJ really making it work. And late in the race, he's now leading the two TSR Porsches. And they were squabbling it out earlier on. Well, I think they will certainly be on orders not to fight it out at least now and just get a move on to catch the Greek in front. And then in the GT class, it is still Joe of the Fire holding on to the lead, to the advantage in front of Fred Dude. Y-Bear is now passing Ben, who's made final pit stop. Nukeshot, I'm afraid, has parked the car in the garage for now. And for Y-Bear, it's all going to come down to whether Joe of the Fire and Fred Dude does do that late pit stop or not. Although 20.5 seconds, I'm not quite sure it's going to work out in the end even. Might just be losing that little bit too much. Interestingly, CJ seems to be able to keep the advantage alive. It's 2.2 seconds down to Wake. And another second and a half between the two TSR Porsches here at the moment. So, well, impressive. He's kept the hopes and dreams alive. CJ, who just lost 0.7 of a second through turn 3. Relatively undramatic. There wasn't really anything happening, but of course, the Porsche being very fast on corner exits, that might just be it. You can really see that advantage is being eaten into through the middle sector. Also here in the final sector, as Wake might just be able to put himself into the slipstream already of CJ and deploys all that hybrid power now. And he's going to be yelling, "Suck me daddy!" as he's trying to catch up to the Greek in front. It's also apparent that the Tomahawk does really pack a punch on its top speed. And Ryan sort of got left behind there. At this point of the race, that could be a deciding factor with no more than 10 laps left of racing. Just about 15 minutes or so to go here, as Ryan has a bit of a heady moment as well. They're on the outside. Joe of the Fire, Fred Dude. Oh, Fred Dude has gotten past. Over the last lap or so, it has happened. The Belgian taking the lead of the GT class, and that's gonna put Fred Dude in the lead as well. in the overall standings. So an important change of positions. That is now Wake very close to CJ this time around. Back to gaining ways, I'd say. Getting a little loose yet again on final corner exit this time around, though I think it might be very difficult for CJ to defend it. It all depends on whether Wake will be able to actually pull out, and have to do so very, very late here as CJ tries to defend the inside. Wake is going to be aiming for getting that fast run out the corner. Oh, that's intelligent driving indeed here as Wake does retake the lead from CJ. Breaking deep into the corner, but doing so early, and here's CJ coming right back at him. And there's a bit of a nudge to put himself back in front. Now, I'm gonna have another look at that. That is for sure CJ going a little wide to try and defend it. That was slightly naughty. Nothing really to write home about, but still, contact is contact, and it's not supposed to happen. Let's have another look at the situation before on board here with the Wake. Goes extremely deep into the corner, and then able to get the run anyways, using that hybrid system. Now here with the Wang cam, we'll also be able to see that squeeze in up the inside. Well, he is there. So the question is, who is even the culprit in the situation? For sure, one thing that is for sure is that it takes two to tango. Now the advantage having grown back up to right around a second, just over a second here. Question is, Wake, did he pick up any damage? I certainly didn't. Ryan running cleanly as well, and same goes for CJ. It's all very neat and tidy for the leading LMPs. Joe of the Fire, did he do that pit stop? I think he very much so did. Yes, that was indeed a late pit stop for Joe of the Fire. 15 seconds. But to make that up in the space of, well, what's it gonna be for those drivers? I'm not even sure. They will be doing, what, 4 or 5 laps less? Certainly, he hasn't got a lot of time left to take care of business. Wake going very wide, and yet again here Wake seems to really be losing his concentration, perhaps. Goes right over the curb, gets a bit of a bounce on. That's something Martin knows something about, and then goes very deep into here as well in that final sector. That certainly hurt the advantage. Now 3 seconds up to CJ, and it's all beginning to look like a very surprising situation with the VLX car looking to run away with it all here. Certainly looking strong, that much we can say, although it isn't over yet per se, but we've seen it's just that it's going to be difficult. And perhaps it would it be smart to let by Ryan? I'm not even sure. He seems to be on pretty fresh rubber still. It's not like it should be a problem for him. Fred Dude is pitted in, and he's appeared a half a second in front of Joe of the Fire. So they both did go in for those pit stops. They've both come out now, and they are as close as ever. It's going to be a battle to the line here as Maverick almost gets a little too involved. Gets squirmy there and almost becomes a big problem indeed for Joe of the Fire. Now that cost the Witty Professor some important time here through comes. That was actually not even Maverick. That was CJ, and that's cooked a lot of CJ's advantage down to Wake. So, my pardons for misjudging who that actually was. But the gap is now yet again underneath a second. This seems to be going back and forth as CJ gets a wide exit from turn 3 this time around as well. through the long sweeping left-hand turn 4, or right-hand turn 4, excuse me. And it is really Wake getting close this time around, yet again, with Ryan still just lurking in the background. And the question is, gonna get out on top here in the end. Now Joe of the Fire, mind you, this is the first time in this race that Joe of the Fire is actually running the super soft tires, and that advantage or that disadvantage of being on the regular softs against Fred Dude, who was running the super softs, well, could Joe of the Fire go and grab the win here? Final bit of the race. It certainly would be a classy win, it has to be said. Let's have a good run this time around on the BMW in front. Question is it good enough to actually send it here at the end? It was half a second when they started it, but he is gonna send it up the inside. Oh, what's it gonna be? They exit side by side. Joe of the Fire has his nose in front. Is there still overlap? Fred Dude fighting for it on the inside, but Joe of the Fire cuts across to take a lead late in the race, and the witty professor actually able to do that. That was a brilliant move in the end. I'm gonna catch another move right away, or another look, I'm sorry, right away here. And it's an absolute send, but managing to keep it clean, leaving plenty of space on the outside, especially on the exit where it's really important. Just force someone onto that AstroTurf on the outside of turns 1 and 2, then that battle certainly is over. And going back to the LMP lead battle, because that is just close as well at the moment here, with CJ still leading Wake, Ryan still lurking around the background, and it's just a couple of laps to go. We're on lap 39 of 42, including that formation lap as well. So just 4 laps to go. And this time around, Wake is going to be having a look into turn 3, but no more than that. Then I think getting a very poor exit. As a result, a little bit indecisive, wanting to carry through the look and make it more of a look. Less of a look, you could say, and more of a move. But that didn't really materialize whatsoever. Now we're going to have a look back with the witty professor. Just exiting turn 1, still in the lead, but it's hella close between himself and Fred Dude. And that is Sailor coming up. Even Stella gets excited by now. Here's Joe of the Fire, really turns it in. Still with that LMP on the outside. They managed to make the pass. And CJ, over a second, he's put Wake outside of the slipstream. And Wake hasn't been on a good lap for this one, that's for sure. This could be the deciding one, but still 3 laps to go. The question seems to be whether, well, who can keep their heads cool, because it will be the cooler heads that prevail in this situation. I think that is very, very certain indeed here. Wake with a very fast second 1. Tack Stella. Just as the race is ending, this is just getting too exciting for her young, houndish soul indeed here, as a Fred Dude is certainly going to have a look at Joe of the Fire. He's getting shown the outside. There's going to be no way to cut it back as well. Joe of the Fire getting a little slidey there, but keeping the FT1 in front. Crazy dog. The half the race dog is real. That is for sure here, with the Fred Dude sending it up the inside, and Joe of the Fire going for the cutback. This is a very good move. It's gonna put Fred Dude on the inside. Tak stille. Ti stille. And this battle just goes on. Luckily, the drivers aren't as thrown off by the sudden amounts of barking as I am. Now, who's that coming up? It is, this time, a little less dramatic here on the penultimate lap, as it is just, Maverick. Fred Dude with 0.5 of a second yet again tries to just get a little bit of slipstream from Maverick's car. That might be what saves him into turn 1 this time around. And it's the penultimate lap. It's the final sector for the penultimate time now for the lead trio here of the LMP machines. And it's still CJ looking good, but now Wake just making that final inroad. Could it be for TSR? I'm not quite sure in the end. Crazy John, Wake, Ryan, that is the running order. As we head onto the final lap. Now, will anyone be able to do anything about this? I think Wake might have been held up by Ben's Nissan GTR in that situation. I guess he just lost a 10th or 2, and we're gonna have a look here with Joe of the Fire. Now it's they're gonna be their penultimate time around this final sector 2, but I do think that Fred Dude is on a bit of a tire advantage here in the latter parts of this race. Now, will Joe of the Fire be able to get the exit, the run that he needs on the Belgian in front? I'm not quite sure. 0.8 of a second. It seems to me it's gonna be very hard. And right now it just seems like it's just Fred Dude breaking away in front. Joe of the Fire, no doubt, is going to be too far back to make any kind of lunge move into turn 1 yet again. With the final lap about to happen, it does look difficult for the Witty Professor. And it does look like a win indeed for virtual live experience, for Crazy John, for the Mad Geek, I was about to say. The Mad Greek, it is taking the checkered flag, taking the win here at Fuji. Right in front of the TSR duo of Porsche 919s, that is Wake and Ryan, finishing in respectively 2nd and 3rd place. Sailor is gonna grab 4th around the final corner right around here. And then it's gonna be Maverick for 5th place, and then 6th overall, 1st in the GT class. Well, holding on to it for the time being at least. That 1 second advantage down to Joe of the Fire. It seems to be enough of a lead as they come round that. Well, it seems to be a harder right-hander than it actually looks to be when you look at it on the map. That turn 7. Well, here is the final sector. Fred Dude ever expanding his gap here, or is he? As he goes deep into the penultimate corner. Final corner it is. Joe of the Fire could get a run here. Nope, that's not gonna be, I think. And that indeed is Fred Dude taking the win in the GT class right in front of Joe of the Fire. Brilliant battle going all the way to the line between those two as well. And a brilliant show. And it's gonna be Y-Bear in the second of the FT1s, the Nukeshot FT1s, finishing in 3rd place in the end. So a brilliant race, it has to be said. Really good race, I think, all the way through here. Very nice level of action, very nice close racing, and at the head of both fields as well. Now we're gonna have a short moment of bouncy heads, because we're gonna be making the party for the post-race interviews. More bouncy heads, as we get the invites sent out. It's gonna be Y-Bear in 3rd. It's gonna be Fred Dude. It's gonna be Joe. It's gonna be Ryan, Wake, and CJ. Well, hello, CJ. Maybe not so mad Greek for once here on this occasion, having pulled off a pretty good win, it has to be said, here at Fuji. What are your thoughts here, having just crossed the line?
At first I thought that this race could be really easy for the non-hybrids. Then I realized that Sector 3 was a sector that benefits the hybrids a lot. And then I also forgot that in a long race, the Porsche does not generate hybrid for the last corner. So there were times that I was gaining like 4 or 5 tenths out of the last corner on Wake and on Ryan. This race was hectic to say the least. DirtenDK really did me over twice as I went wide on the second to last corner. And it was a great brief battle for Wake. We had that slight touch in the fourth corner, the long right-hander. On my end, I didn't feel any contact, so it was probably either hitbox or netcode. I'm sorry for whatever happened, but it was a close race, and everything can happen in the heat of the moment. So pretty happy with that win, and the 2% ballast I'll carry more compared to Wake for next week. We're also tied in the championship, so that's cool.
It's certainly turning to be an interesting end of the season run. Congrats on a great race and a great win to you, CJ. We're going to be moving on to second place on the podium, on the LMP podium, Wake. TSR Wake.
Hello, Dirten.
Hello to you. A very good race in the end, a very interesting one it seems. You had plenty of battling to do both with Ryan early days, and then all of a sudden there was a very certain Greek who announced his own entrance into that podium fight. Did you think that CJ was going to be in contention for the race win on those opening laps as well?
Well, before the weekend started, I thought that this track was favorite for the non-hybrids, but I was quite surprised that we hybrid cars could follow them around and even be quicker than them. So yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. But yeah, the race was very interesting. I was following Ryan around, and then I got in his dirty air, and then the gap behind me closed with CJ. So yeah, it got interesting.
Certainly did. And what's your take on that penultimate lap? A little bit of contact between you and CJ in turn 4.
Yeah, I had a nice exit out of turn 1, and then the hybrid power took over and just launched me past him. Then we go to turn 3, turn 4. I was on the outside. I think I was a little bit ahead. But then I felt a hit on the right rear, and I almost lost it. But yeah, kept it going, and CJ, yeah, he took the lead again, and that was actually decisive for the race. So yeah, sad that it happened, but yeah, that's racing, I guess.
Well, Wake, congratulations on second place. Congratulations on 2 cars on the podium for TSR. Not bad in the end at all. And that leads me to the next TSR driver in the line, Ryan. Third place for you today. Seemed you had the pace to be up with the very best over a single lap, but also seemed you had a little bit more trouble than the other front runners putting it together lap after lap after lap with the consistency. Was that also your feelings out there today?
Yeah, I didn't have any practice, so I wasn't really consistent enough, and then spun out. Yeah, but third place isn't too bad. So yeah.
And well, in the final part of the race, you seemed to also just have a little bit of trouble just edging in on your teammate Wake as well. Do you think he had a little bit of an advantage with regards to the tires today?
Yeah, he had, oh, he's better saving the tyres, unlike me. And also, the dirty air, as CJ said, that really does kill you. So, could have overtook him, but the dirty air was just like, nah.
Well, Ryan, third place isn't all that bad in the end, and it's good points for the team, which we're of course still leading those standings. So congratulations to TSR for 2 drivers on the podiums in the end, and your own third place, of course, as well. We're gonna go on to the GT podium, and we're gonna go on to have a word with Fred Dude, the winner. Very, very strong performance today from yourself, Fred. Just a second, I'll just make sure that. Oh, there it is. Good. So, anyways, a very good performance, very good race on your partner. Very nice long battle that went more or less all the way through the race with Joe of the Fire. How was your feeling out there on track today, Fred?
Yeah, I mean, I had pretty good feeling from the start, although I was maybe feeling a bit inconfident, but until the race, that confidence built itself back up, and yeah, I just had a really good battle with Joe, considering I even had the heaviest weight, because I had 3%, so I was kind of surprised. I was a little bit outpacing Joe. But still, a great battle with him was really fun, really interesting.
Well, congrats on a great race, congrats on a great win, and that's certainly going to keep the championship standings extra interesting, as you're going to be so close. I think that's going to be you in the lead, Fred, but it's going to be close, to say the least. Coming into this race, there was a...
It's definitely going to be close, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what are your thoughts on the next couple of races that we're coming towards, and the M6 compared to the FT1 that Joe's running?
Well, we'll see, you know. You never know what's going to happen each race, so I guess we'll just have to see race by race and see how we both will perform on each track. So we'll just see. We'll just take it bit by bit and see how we both can perform on each track and see which one will be the fastest of the two.
For sure, Fred. Well, congrats on the race, and best of luck for the coming part of the season. Now, Joe of the Fire, the witty professor, there's been talk of you being a little tired of Gran Turismo of late. Well, it didn't show today in this race. A brilliant one from your part as well, managing to stay in contention even when using the regular softs and not the super softs on the entirety of the race. So, what are your thoughts on the second place in the end?
Well, I think the race went fairly well. I could tell from qualifying that it was going to be close, because it was less than 300ths between us. But then for the race, I just couldn't make the super soft whilst long enough, so I had to run the soft for it. And I think that's where I was losing time. It's just the usual thing with tyre wear on the DualShock against the wheel.
Yeah.
And then we had some good battles through the race. Now, and a few dives that just worked out. It's like very close in turn one a few times.
Yeah, you don't
and
say.
then also one time where we both overshot and just drifted around the outside.
It will make for a great spectacle to watch, and it's looking like it's going to be a great spectacle, as I also mentioned with Fred, because you're so close indeed in the standing. And same goes for the LMP standings. We're just having a lot of closeness in the overalls here, in the pro field, in the NES, and that's a pleasure to see. So, Joe, great race, great racing as well with you and Fred. It was a pleasure to follow, and congratulations on second place today, and best of luck to you as well for the rest of the season. We're gonna go on to your teammate, Bear.
He's not here.
Oh, he's not here. Oh, I thought he was. Okay, so we're not going on to Bear. We're just gonna cut it short. I'm quite sure I know why. Actually, Bear's not in the party because
Yeah, his
Bear
hours.
is really late in Indonesia by now, and he's sleeping kids and stuff. So it's kind of not that hard to imagine why Bear wouldn't be sitting here talking about imaginary racing with me at this point. of what is for him at this point of the night. But that will just lead me on to saying thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with us here at Half the Race Gone this Sunday. Thanks to those of you who tuned in to the iRacing lads who got killed or they died just as we started this stream. Such a shame. It was perhaps the most amazing recovery I have seen. Starting in the end, coming in was running in 29th place, and then to put it into 4th or 5th place at the end of the first stint, rather impressive. But that said, we'll be doing much more iRacing soon. Next weekend is the Petit Le Mans coming up. It's going to be me, Martin, and Traels. Me being a big pleb, I'm going to have a good chance of showing my plebness there. And more GT Sport coming up during the week as well. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. And I hope to see you there. And, well, with that said, if you like what we do, leave a like. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. And with that said, take care. And until next time, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.